Do Hydralisks actually counter anything? I've been getting multiple comments talking about just how bad the Hydralisk is, so let's put it to the test. First of all, pretty much all the units that counter light units destroy the Hydralisk. Baelings, Colossi, and Adepts have no problem whatsoever. Hydralisks also struggle against the capital ships, with them not getting much done against either the battlecruisers or the carrier. Some of the melee units also prove to be an incredible counter to the Hydralisk, with both Zealots and Ultralisks absolutely wiping them off the map, barely using any units at all. Besides these, there is one more unit that one-sidedly destroys the Hydralisk, and that is the Thor. The Thor being a tanky unit that two-shots the Hydralisk, making it an easy fight. Now on to the closer battles. Theoretically, you would think Hydralisks could beat Immortals because they are not armored. But as we've seen in a previous short, the Immortal is surprisingly strong even against non-armored targets. The most common use case for Hydralisk in pro-level matches is when going up against mass Stalkers. And even though they don't outshine them completely, the Stalker is going to be the first unit to actually lose out to the Hydra. The Marauder, similarly to the Immortal, is also an anti-armor unit, but sadly for the Marauder, it does not win out like the Immortal does. But it was still very close. The next unit up is the Marine, which most people would consider to be good against the Hydralisk. And indeed, without the Baeling support that Hydralisks typically have, they do indeed lose to the Marines. One of the all-time favorite units of this channel is the Landed Viking. Vikings are sometimes shockingly strong on the ground, as most people consider them to be anti-air units only. Even me, as a frequent user, I thought they would lose, but instead they win in a very close fight. The next two battles are against these staple Zerg units, Zerglings and Roaches. Hydralisks are typically considered glass cannon units, so most people wouldn't expect them to do well against these, but they do actually manage to beat the Roaches. Obviously the Hydralisks are more expensive, so in a real game the numbers might be different and the Hydralisk could lose. One of the more painful results for the Hydralisk is that it loses to Zerglings, which are way cheaper. Now finally, after a bunch of tough battles, we've arrived at the point where Hydralisks are actually gonna look good. The most surprising destruction for me was that Hydralisks actually destroy Archons. Despite Hydras being very low on defense, they do manage to beat Archons even without microing back and using its range. They also destroy a bunch of air units very hard, like Void Rays, which is a unit that most of you seem to think is terrible anyway, and Banshees, which are more of an harassment unit than a straight up fighting unit. So, after all these results, do you still think the Hydralisk is terrible?